Hey guys, it's Exotical Sauce coming back at you with another video. And I wanted to talk about why I think that the Exoticals are popping right now. One of the main reasons why the Exoticals are popping right now is because members of the Black women empowerment spaces or content creators from those spaces decided to take a nuanced discussion within the Black community to large mainstream platforms like YouTube and other social media platforms and talk about the colorism conversation. And they essentially did the same thing that they accused Black men of doing. They were accusing Black men of going to large platforms and airing out their grievances about Black women, calling them loud and aggressive and this and that. So Black women accused Black men of being colorist and thought that that was very toxic and damaging to their reputation, but then they turned around and did the same thing to us Exoticals, to us MLS women. They too decided to take to a large platform and talk about how much they dislike us via the colorism combo. Me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about colorism or anything wrong with talking about racism or texturism or featureism or any of the other isms. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with good, healthy, honest conversation. The problem is that the colorism conversation was neither healthy nor honest. It was one-sided, and those spaces were primarily used to hurl insults at MLS women, and MLS women in particular. And a lot of times, Black men too. So, yeah. And in those spaces, whenever an MLS woman would attempt to defend herself, she would find herself either blocked or ignored. So once Exoticals United came out with her counter channel, and then she encouraged all of us MLS women to make channels of our own so that we may be heard and our voices could be heard, so that we could provide counter channels to the colorism conversation, we began to point out different hypocrisies and different double standards within the Black community. And that is what a lot of people of different communities are interested in hearing. They're interested in hearing the Exoticals side of the story. Also, the way in which Exoticals present ourselves is vastly different than the way that unambiguous Black women in those BWE spaces present themselves. Exoticals did not have to hurl insults, talk about anyone's particular skin tone, or talk about their facial features, or make fun of their the way they look or the way they dress. A lot of times we talk about unambiguous dark-skinned Black women, we are talking about the behaviors, we're talking about the stank-ass attitudes, we're talking about the insults that they throw at us, and so forth. So when the Exoticals presented our side of the story, pretty much, we presented it with class, with grace, with beauty, with femininity. We didn't have to put each other down or put them down to get our points across. We didn't have to talk about their channels being struggle channels or, calling them names like preferences and stuff like that. We didn't have to do that. And our community is growing because other people who are watching us, the other communities, are actually the ones that are making us pop, not unambiguous dark-skinned Black women. Unambiguous dark-skinned Black women can't stand us. They're not our fan base. They're not our primary supporters. It's other communities that enjoy listening to our content. They enjoy listening to the little nuanced hypocrisies, the little things that non-Black people would not be aware of without someone pointing it out. And now it's getting to the point where other communities are actually starting to make the distinction between MLS women and unambiguous dark-skinned Black women. People are starting to notice, because before it used to be we were all just Black and we were all just kind of lumped into one category, but because the BWE spaces made separate terms for us, calling themselves unambiguous Black women and calling us mixed and light-skinned women, now other communities are starting to see the differences in the way we present ourselves versus them, differences in the way the conversation is being presented, differences in the way that we carry ourselves, and so forth. And so I feel like a lot of unambiguous dark-skinned black women are way too focused on like mixed and light-skinned women and other women in other communities and trying to compete with them instead of like trying to compete with themselves. Like I think unambiguous dark-skinned black women, of course not all, but I think that a lot of them are too preoccupied with the privileges that other women are getting versus what privileges that they have. So like it almost puts you in mind of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark if you follow the WNBA. I don't really follow the WNBA until now. I've noticed a lot of content creators talking about the rivalry and how both of them are vying for like to be the rookie of the year. So, that's what sparked my interest because I'm always like good for like I always like I would not turn down a nice hot cup of tea, honey. Like, so just for context, Angel Reese is the black girl. She plays for Chicago Sky, I believe. And Caitlin Clark is the white lady. She plays for the Indiana Fever. And it reminds me, like, the dynamic between the two kind of reminds me of the dynamic between Exoticals and unambiguous black women, because it seems like Angel Reese is no longer focusing on her game or herself, in my opinion, because I just started to follow and I was looking at other channels and different videos they made about Angel Reese, and they show clips of her game and how she really can't shoot that well and she gets flustered and stuff. And like I said, I wasn't really a huge follower until I started looking at the other content creators making videos about the two of them. And that's what made it like really, really juicy and made me want to like take interest, because I used to follow the WNBA a long time ago, back when Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops were like hot or whatever. That was like a long time ago. But lately I started to take notice because it kind of put me in mind of like how Exoticals versus unambiguous dark-skinned black women interact with each other. One thing about it, and I know it's difficult because both of them are in the limelight and stuff, and it's difficult to focus on what you're doing when people are talking so much shit. It seems like a lot of people are distracting Angel Reese, and like with them making videos and making commentary about how much she's fallen off, and it does, you could tell it definitely is starting to show in how like how well she's playing the game. Like she's like trying to make shots, she can't make the shots. She's fumbling the ball, she's scoring less points. But meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is like kind of competing against herself, and she's starting to improve and get better and better each passing game. And they're both, like I said, they're both competing to be rookie of the year. But people are making videos and stuff. But the one thing people are starting to call out though is that Cheryl Swoops, who's supposed, she's supposed to be like a high profile like commentator on WNBA, whatever, and she's been showing a lot of bias towards Angel Reese just off the strength of her being a black girl, and she refuses to acknowledge anything Caitlin Clark does. It's like Caitlin Clark is doing everything right on the court, and she's what everybody else should aspire to be like, because she's really a good player, and Cheryl Swoops will not acknowledge that. And given the little bit of coverage I saw just by looking at certain clips and stuff through other content creators' videos and everything like that to illustrate what's been going on, it's painfully obvious that Cheryl Swoops will not acknowledge Caitlin Clark because Caitlin Clark is white. And they feel like Caitlin Clark is she needs to stay in her white girl lane and get out of the black girl lane, because the sport has been predominantly black dominated for a while, and they feel a way when a white lady comes along and starts to excel in that sport. So like I said, it's that black superiority complex and that sense of entitlement. But Cheryl Swoops is much older than Caitlin Clark. Like, Cheryl Swoops already had her time on the court, and so Cheryl Swoops is a elder. Like, she's somebody that Caitlin Clark probably looked up to a long time ago, and she just refuses to acknowledge anything that this woman does. And you could tell it's because she's white. So they've removed Cheryl Swoops. They've from doing any commentary on the game. They have called her out in several videos on social media. And it seems like Angel Reese is she's distracted by that, and also the success of Caitlin Clark. And it's like Angel Reese she keeps trying to like clap back and like get the last word and trying to like throw Caitlin off, and Caitlin hasn't said a word. In the midst of all of this unfair, overt discrimination against her, she has not said a word. She continues to play and just let her game speak for herself. Like, that's her revenge, being successful in the game. It seems like that's where a lot of unambiguous black women go wrong. Instead of trying to get the last word and clap back and always trying to like best or one up another person, just focus on yourself and what you know you're good at. You know what I mean? And a lot of them don't do that. A lot of them they approach the situation with like all of this toxic feedback and personal attacks and stuff like that. And when you do stuff like that, it's just like a never-ending cycle. Like, the more silent Caitlyn is, the more they come at this girl. Then, one of the other exoticals talked about silence. I think it was the exotic brown skin. She mentioned how important it is to be silent, pretty much. Just not say a word and let your game speak for itself. And that's the key. And that's another thing that exoticals have done all the while we were getting insulted, and our skin tone was being insulted and our image was being tainted by the BWE spaces. We didn't say a word. We just let them talk and pretty much say what they had to say. But after a while, that starts to get old. People get tired of being silent, especially if you just keep coming at them over and over and over again with all of these attacks and all of these like name calling and harassment and stuff when they're not really saying anything to you. Like, hopefully, like, a lot of people just figure, well, I'll just ignore you, maybe you'll go away and stop it. But it seems like a lot of black women don't. And at this point, you look on social media, it seems like black women are falling out with everybody. They're falling out with black men. They're falling out with light-skinned MLS women, mixed and light-skinned women, falling out with Africans and different immigrants, calling out and falling out with white people. In a minute, they're not going to have any allies. And pretty soon, too, also that underdog privilege stuff and the victim mindset, the victim mentality, the victim card is going to like get old. It already starts to get old. So like, what happens then? You have no friends and nobody gives a fuck that you're a victim or that you feel like a victim. So then what? What happens then? Like, I don't know. But yeah, so a lot of other people are definitely watching the Exoticals and they are listening to us, and they didn't tune into us because we're hurling just senseless insults or trying to clap back. They're listening to us because we have intelligent talking points and we're able to accurately call out the hypocrisy, and we do it with grace, we do it with class, we do it with kind of like we're charming in a way, we're polite. We don't try to overtly insult people. So yeah, but those are some of the reasons as to why I think the exotical community is popping right now. So let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll talk to you next time.